So hello everyone and welcome to Green Finance Panel. So my name is, just introduced, is Maja Erker Žgajnar. I come from CMS Global Law Firm. We have global coverage. We are everywhere except in US for now. I'm a partner with the law firm and I had banking and finance department in Slovenia. But let's introduce the panelists as well. Maja, maybe we can start with you.
Of course. Hello everyone from me. I'm another Maja and I'm from Split. But today I'm representing our National Fund for Environmental Protection and Energy Efficiency.
Anne?
Yes, good afternoon everybody. My name is Lise Rognlidalen, representing Innovation Norway, based in Norway, but also operating from Zagreb, where we have a small branch office. And just to add on that Innovation Norway is as a special law company under the Norwegian Ministry of Trade and Industry, and also the County Councils of Norway. And we are the Norwegian government's most important tool for development of businesses and industries in Norway. Thank you.
Thank you, and hi to everyone. I'm Zvonimir Akrap, working in OTP in charge for corporate activity. To be short.
I'm Andrej Grubišić, and I'm a co-owner of a small consultancy based in Zagreb, and what we do corporate finance, M&A in particular.
So, as we all know, European Commission set very ambitious goals for European Union, and that is climate neutrality by 2050 and the reduction of carbon gases by 55% to 2030, and that's basically around the corner. That means, and it is estimated that around 480 billion of euros per year will be needed to fund the green transition, which is a lot. And public investment will not be enough, and private capital will play an important role in that. And this is what we are trying to focus today in our discussion in the panel. And this is, on one hand, banking, financing, equity, capital markets, and also public investment. And maybe, Zvonimir, we can start with you. What kind of bank loans your bank offers in respect to green transition?
Well, mostly in this stage we speak about green loans. And if you take a look on the portfolio in this moment, it's quite clear and obvious that, okay, we did a lot, but there is still a long path in front of us. So one still minor part of our portfolio could be treated as a green loan. Okay, I mean, when you take a look on the regulation and procedure how to call some loan as a green, this is quite complex. But anyhow, what we are now doing until the end of this month, strategy for ESG will be fully finalized and implemented within the bank, and will be followed by a very clear set of KPIs, including the one which is practically, I mean, moving us to more than double percentage of green loans within the next 3 years per period. So in this stage, I would say, okay, I mean, we are trying really to somehow spread this culture of ESG and green within the bank. Today, our president of the board already said a few words about that. Now it's on our side to implement it in all credit procedures of the bank, which is also going to be done until the end of the year.
Okay, so worldwide, maybe just one more question for you. We know that there are also sustainability-linked loans, right? Which is basically providing working capital for transition to a sustainable economy. Is that something that you already offer in Croatia or not?
From case to case, yes. If you take a look, it's really quite different in the different segments of the companies based on the size. So for, let's say, small and medium customers, it's much easier to create some, I would say, products which are quite standardized, while for the large companies, typically you speak about tailor-made loans. So we are offering that, but this is again what I said, based on the tailor-made approach. So when customer has a need, and we could, of course, help and analyze it together with them and structure something what will be green tomorrow.
And also maybe just one more question about banking financing, and that is about interest rates. I'm curious to know, is the interest rate as an incentive, so meaning a lower interest rate usually with the greens and sustainability linked loans, or structured as a penalty?
This is something on which we, together with the regulator, should make some progress. I would say quite huge progress. As currently in terms of capital consumption, there is no any difference between a regular loan and green loan. So what we would like to see, some kind of push from the regulator in which green loans will have a less risk-weighted assets applied on them. So it will absolutely help us to price that with lower prices and to, of course, promote it much more in the market.
Okay. Understandable. I think that that's also the approach in the region, as I hear, also in Slovenia, where I come from, and also in CE as such. Maybe to move to equity funding, Andrej, you are very much active in M&A, and I would love to hear what you can tell us about what is going on in the Croatian market, but basically what funds, what transactions are on the market, which type of funds come in. So, yes, please.
Okay, it's a long question, but I have a very short answer. There is not a whole lot going on in this segment when it comes to the equity financing. I think we're just picking up the pace. Out of 20 plus transactions that we've done in the last couple of years, almost, well, virtually none actually had to do anything with this. So it's an area which is actually just becoming explored to a greater extent. I mean, as Zvonimir said, even the banks, large banks in Croatia, do not have a clear view of what ECG financing actually is. I was searching the internet to find a definition of ECG, and I found different definitions, some of them quite contradictory. So one of the definitions said that ECG company would be the one that actually is concerned with animal welfare. Okay, and then on the other hand, they say we want proteins grown on plants without cows, which is quite contradictory because, you know, if you don't want cows because of the emission of a methane, then we have very contradictory goals. So there is there's a little bit of confusion on this. At the same time, I think you asked Zvonimir about sustainable economy and sustainable business. I think that equity investors, creditors as well, I mean, if you do not have a venture business that is sustainable in our belief in terms of being able to generate sufficient cash flow from which you will actually return the interest and the loan, regardless of how low the interest is, it's not sustainable in our view. So I think we have to be very, very cautious here because politicians' agenda, where they use other people's money to push their ideas or some of the ideas which sound very noble, we have to be very careful about this, and especially putting pressure on deadlines. We've seen that, you know, EU has broken many rules that it set itself. So I think if we do not meet these deadlines and KPIs, you know, they will set a different deadline and a different rule. We have to make sure that this is not being done just for the sake of it, because you will not have sufficient number of motivated stakeholders to put their money into this. And when you speak about almost €500 million of financing, again, it's taxpayers' money. So I know that these people do not have any problem saying we will finance something, but publicly available sources say that private investment into these segments are less than 10% of the total financing. So we are heavily relying currently on government or quasi-government sponsored financing. So, and the final note is it's really when you talk about equity investments and when you talk about private equity investments, you know, investing in a solar power plant, it's always a question, how do I exit this? because the core business of private equity funds is actually to exit at certain point. So I see not that many, I would not expect that much money coming from private equity, but more money coming from pension funds. So it's because like a solar power plant, it's probably like a bond type of investment. It's a long term, reasonably stable, predictable cash flows. But as I said, we are just gaining our first experiences with this, and we'll see how it evolves.
Well, probably with the European Union and the regulatory framework, that should help somehow, right, with the investments. And also in respect to the bonds, and so not just equity capital markets, but also debt capital markets. But this is just the start of it, because as we see from US now what is coming, one of the debates is also, should we separate E from S to G? Should it stay ESG, or should companies be evaluated by just one factor? And that would be maybe more fair. As we all know, Tesla was excluded from SP 500 2 weeks ago, I think, because the ES part was not basically appropriate, environmental was. And I think that maybe from a regulatory part, it's important to have that framework, so to eliminate greenwashing and bluewashing. But on the other hand, I think we are just starting really to develop the regulatory framework.
I think it's really important to talk to all stakeholders. I'll give you an example. Let's assume that OTP Banks provides a loan that usually it would price it at 2% or whatever, but due to regulatory reasons, it prices it at 1% because of how it participates in the risk-weighted assets. But at the same time, you have depositors in the bank, maybe myself, who have a deposit in the bank. So, but basically what I would like Zvonimir to do, just to make sure that wherever he is lending our money, that he is managing this money in a proper way, regardless of regulatory incentives. Because the ultimate payer for this could actually be us, the depositors in the bank.
So maybe also moving to Anne and your experience, because your institution is very much involved in green transition as well. And I would like to hear what kind of grants your institution offers and what projects did you do already in Croatia?
Thank you. Then I have to make a split between what Innovation Norway is doing in Norway and what we are doing in Croatia. So first of all, I would like to mention that, as you know, Norway is not a member of the EU, but we are a member of the European Economic Area Agreement, the so-called EEA. And this is the cornerstone for all our Norway's collaboration with Europe or EU. So through this agreement, we have also established the EEA and Norway grants, which is a financial mechanism offered to 15 countries in Southern and Eastern Europe. And one of them are Croatia, since you become a member of the EU. So our mandate in Croatia is to manage this business development and innovation program, which is a program that offers financial support in the form of grants, non-reimbursable funds, in order to invest in new green technologies or to develop new green technologies or solutions. It also offers financing for similar developments within the blue sector, but the blue is also green from time to time. So this goes hand in hand. And so far we have actually supported approximately 22 Croatian companies, and we have allocated more than 10 million euros to those companies. But we still have some money left, and in the autumn we expect to have a third call, so there is still an opportunity for Croatian companies who would like to apply for grants. And this is the private companies. It has to be for-profit companies, and the objective is, of course, to increase their competitiveness and to increase the turnover and profit through this development. When it comes to Norway, or Innovation Norway in Norway, we are also managing several grants on behalf of different ministries in Norway. It's grants and loans and guarantees. And we are following very much the principles of ESG, as you mentioned, in order to allocate these grants to Norwegian companies.
So, Maja, Tell us more. So you are based in Croatia in a fund. What are the funds? So what kind of grants and subsidies are you providing to not just corporates, but also to consumers?
Well, previously I was referred to one of those people who represent the government, who create programs for funding which are not maybe in line with the best interest of the companies, but I have to strongly disagree. The way we create our programs is the inclusive way, the way that includes talks with all relevant stakeholders. And I can immediately put out an example, and it is something that is current and that I'm also happy to announce here, first time publicly, that this year's series of incentives for purchase of the electric vehicles is going to happen in the end of this month. And we have just closed the call for the interest of the car manufacturers and sellers. And this year we are going to have even more vehicles on disposal, more than 500 types or models, almost 80 brands that produce electrical vehicles. And the incentive will start on 27th of this month in a way that we did also the last year. And why I'm talking a lot about it, it's because that model was created last year, actually in talk with all the relevant stakeholders. So we gathered the Chamber of Economy, we gathered everyone who is included in the car market or vehicle market in Croatia. We sat around the table and we spent really a lot of time discussing what is the optimal model. And it worked. It actually worked. Citizens were happy, companies were happy, and I think that we can talk today about branding in regard of if company wants to have a modern and green car, they are going to have EV. And that is something that we are going to do in other programs as well. You know that we mostly give grants. Grants are great, but grants are something that create a bad effect in a way that it makes companies or projects dependable on the grants and on the funding. And what we do with them, we create distortions in the markets. So with cars also, sales of electric vehicles don't happen another 11 months in the year. And we now are thinking how to turn things around. And we are going to do the same with other programs. And you know that it has already been announced that in this multi-annual framework for EU funds, countries must allocate more funds in line with financial instruments, not grants. And that's something that we will also have to do. So we will probably be in competition with banks who are trying to form green loans, but also our change in direction is going to help you to give out more green loans. So that's something that I think is always important to say. We are going to change direction. We are going to not stop giving out grants, because grants are very much needed and very much important for public sector and for citizens. We have a unique database of our end users, of our beneficiaries of funds. And if we can talk in numbers, at the moment, our funds are changing the lives of, I think, more than 100,000 citizens in Croatia. And what we see while we communicate with them, while they report to us what are they doing in their projects, we see that people are very much aware of what is green, of what is smart. And they are the ones that are pushing us towards setting the more ambitious goals, towards setting out more funds. And to, you know, so we are in a very interesting point of time where we have to change the direction, how we think, how we as government's right hand in funding energy efficiency and environmental protection do and operate. And I think that moves we are going to take are going to generate more and more investments in time to come.
So I assume that the awareness on the market is high about what you offer, right?
it's very high. Just one example, this year we started with a call for proposals for renewable energy systems. We did not promote that call much, we just opened it. And in 5 days we received 1,000 applications. And out of those,
that's a lot.
Yeah, that's really a lot. 80% of those applicants were companies. And we are talking about a project portfolio that is worth 100 million euros. That's a lot. But we are not going to stop. In the final quarter of this year, we are going to open another call for another 40 million euros. So this is something that shows us that people are very much aware what can they achieve, where they have to look for information, and of course for funding.
Zvonimir, maybe a question back to you in respect to financing and loans, right? Has the credit rating process already changed? Meaning, or this is something that you anticipate in future, how ESG factors will be counted in when rating a client before granting lending, and not just for green and sustainable loans, but also for regular loans to other companies?
Yeah, well, I mean, if you take a look on the existing moment on the market, I would say that the exclusion lists are clearly defined by all stakeholders, including us. Also, all clients are rated based on the ESG criteria, in our case, to 4 different categories. Also, we are applying regularly for each single large deal ESG questionnaire, while for the mass production, still there is a need until the year end to implement it in the credit procedure fully. So I would say somewhere in the middle in terms of development of the market, but progressing very quickly.
So this is something that companies in general will need to keep in mind, right, for the future. Absolutely. Basically, that they will be evaluated also from these criteria, even seeking a working capital loan, not for a green transition, but basically just funding, right? Yeah,
absolutely. I mean, certain this criteria or this rating is consisting part of any single credit application. So you will always have to be rated based on the ESG.
Okay. And a question to you. What kind of methodology do you use when approving grants?
Well, again, I have to make a small distinction between Croatia and Norway. And of course, when we approve the grants in Croatia, we are of course using this good for business and good for environment, and also good business practice in general. We are always looking at this, and there are clear criteria for selecting projects. And if it is in the green focus area, then of course they have to contribute to green indicators like less CO2 emissions. They have to reduce the energy or water consumption, oil consumption, etc. So this is a clear criteria for the green industry innovation concept. And in Norway, Innovation Norway also offers different type of environmental technologies financing. We also have green growth grants, yes, and we also have green growth loans. And in these type of schemes, we are gradually turning towards more environmental friendly activities in the portfolio we have. So we are looking to using the ESG and the EU taxonomy system for assessing the projects. And last year we had 60% of the portfolio in Innovation Norway were related to green transition activities.
Okay. Maja, how is that in your fund?
Well, quite similar actually, but what we typically do when we put out our calls for proposals, we put on very, very strong and ambitious technical criteria. And that ensures that we are beforehand aware of the effects that are going to be achieved in a project. Of course, there have to be CO2 emission reduction. Of course, there has to be energy savings. But we set our criteria in a way that it goes over the market norm. You know, so we always try to push everyone to go one step further.
Andrej, what kind of sectors or industries in sustainable economy attract the largest share of green finance, and what do you think, why is that?
Well, as far as I'm informed, it's wind and solar, to the best of my knowledge. Everything else is uncomparable to this. So, and it is reasonable to expect that, at least when it comes to Croatia, that this will be growing. I have just read from one of the sources. Well, different sources tell you different targets and different capacities. But I think that just for wind, I think that the proclaimed goal is to have 5,000 megawatts installed by 2030. I don't know about others. So government will play an important role when it comes to the speediness of issuing the permits. And then with a small replica to what Maja said, that they spoke to all the stakeholders. Well, you didn't speak to taxpayers. We are the most important stakeholder. And I know that when you say the citizens were happy, I have friends who bought these cars. They were extremely happy to receive other people's thousands of euros to buy a car. I just don't think that this fits into the ECG. I don't think that's socially most appropriate thing to do, to take money from some people and to give this money to other people, promoting some national or whatever goals. I think that the way to subsidize or direct things in this direction is by reducing taxes. Because if you keep subsidizing, you just have to find from whom you will take, to whom you will then give. So I think it's government certainly can help, but instead of having such a large control over such a large amounts of money, taking it from somebody, directing it to somebody else, maybe let's do a combination. Let's reduce taxes, and then cars become more affordable to the citizens. By the way, Croatia has one of the highest VATs and one of the highest excise duties on cars. So we are paying through taxes huge amounts of money when we are buying cars. So let's reduce taxes, and people will know that they have 2,000 or 3,000 euros more in their pockets. So I think that we can get to the same goal, but maybe using a different approach. But I think that the most important thing is that this transition should be extremely gradual. We should not get surprised that we actually see some problems that nobody has envisaged, not because they didn't want to envisage, but it's just because we do not have sufficient experience with this. And we have to make sure that all government commitments in terms of financing or co-financing or feed-in tariffs and everything that has been around so far, we try to stick to these agreements, because we have experienced that governments or Croatian government would promise something, and then the rules would change while the game has already started. So I'm not saying that anybody has bad intentions, but good intentions are sometimes not necessarily the only precondition to do something in the most proper way.
Yeah, you touched upon, of course. Please, Maja.
I would just like to clarify, the money we invest in programs is not taxpayers' money. The money we collect from the fees from those who pollute the environment, and that's really a crucial difference. So it's not like we generally say, okay, I'm going to tax every one citizen, and then I'm going to invest their hard-earned money in some elitist green projects. No, it's not tax, it's a fee, it's a fee. It's semantics, but the concept is the one that pollute the environment do pay, and their money is given back into those who can help to reduce the effect the pollution has. I don't think that you can come up with another concept or a better concept. It's the only one possible, but we can talk about how to better utilize it. Okay.
Maybe the question is also what could be other incentives, right, to facilitate the green transition? And maybe, Anne, you have any thoughts on that, how that is done in Norway?
Yeah, then, okay, as I mentioned, we already have some green growth grants. We have established a green growth loan, and this is established, and we are collaborating with the European Investment Bank for this. And we also have some other schemes related to environment, as mentioned. We also are now in the process of establishing a green platform. This will be done together with other business support associations in Norway, like Energy Efficiency Transition Fund, and also an investment fund for not startups, but incubators, etc. And I think also Innovation Norway will be looking for European partners in that concept. Maybe I would also like to mention that Norway has a lot of expertise, as you know, from the oil and gas sector, and we have a lot of technologies that now are gradually translated into green technologies. And in order to help the Norwegian companies to promote these green technologies internationally, Innovation Norway has, as assignment from the Norwegian Ministry of Trade and Industry, established a platform that we call The Explorer. And in this The Explorer, you can find, I think right now, more than 400 green technologies and solutions developed in Norway. And they have been, in a way, checked and found okay, the companies as well as the technologies. So this is how we...
Are there any, because I think Andrej raised an interesting point in respect to tax incentives, right? From tax perspective, are there any right incentive that you see in Norway, for example, to facilitate the green transition?
Well, we have, of course, when it comes to energy, we have a specific tax related to this, which is put into a fund, which is used then by this Enova, the energy fund, in order to develop towards the green transition. So yes, we have some funds also in the maritime sector.
Zvonimir, any thoughts on that? What could they do better to incentivize the green transition?
Well, discussion is quite live, so maybe it's better to avoid answering on that.
Just collecting good ideas.
I'm kidding, just kidding. Okay, I mean that at the end, both are right. So, of course, somebody who is polluting should pay somehow the bill for the somebody who will try to make it more cleaner. But in the same time, fully support also Andrej, in which I mean, in the statement that Croatia still has 2 large taxes all across. So this is a really large space to support the goals of the, I mean, not just green, but development, okay, to lead the development in the direction you want to be done. So combination between these 2 models could be the best.
Okay, thank you. And maybe one more question, because we discussed there are a lot of changes coming up. First of all, we have a lot of interest in investment in ESG, in sustainable economy. From European Union, there is a huge regulatory framework helping to facilitate that kind of investment. And also that will, at the end of the day, as we've seen, impact all the companies in the market. And I would like to hear thoughts of all of you. How should the companies, should they keep in mind to best position themselves in the future to basically attract investors and financing? Zvonimir, maybe we can start with you.
I could start from the banking point of view. I mean, regulation, it's so complex that Bible sometimes it's a really small book compared to any law you are trying to understand and to read. So for them, I would say, let's be prepared. Let's communicate from the early beginning with the bank. Have, again, from the early beginning, clear ESG goal you want to achieve. Be transparent. And of course, be careful, as recently we had one case before a few weeks in Germany, in which one of the banks was under the quite serious investigation by the police because of green bond issuance, which was not really green bond issuance. So all of us should really follow fully taxonomy and clear definition of the green product, but we have to cooperate from the early beginning and work together.
Andrej, any thoughts?
Well, I will try to avoid repeating myself. I just read yesterday, a couple of days ago, that the EU Parliament has just voted for a new regulation that all diesel and petrol cars will be banned in terms of new sales as of 2030 or 35. And obviously, there were huge disagreements, not only among political parties, but or some of the stakeholders, let's put it this way. So this is not green, this is not a black and white area. And it's easy to pass political decision, but usually the consequences are borne by other people. And this is why I'm advocating patience, more economic reasoning with all of this. I think one of the CEOs of one of the large oil and gas companies says, we know where we are going, but it costs money. And if you want us to go faster, it will cost even more. And somebody will have to pay for this. So we have to take as many pieces of the puzzle into the play, because all of us have our particular interests, which are legitimate. But promoting my particular interest, buying a electric vehicle with the support of subsidy, it's a great incentive for me, but I don't think it's a great incentive for my neighbor who doesn't even know that I have just taken €1 from him to buy an electric car for myself. So this is why I think we have to be objective, transparent, as you said, because there are dilemmas which are not being maybe addressed, especially not politically in an open way and fashion. Usually we see that everything is great, we do a great job, everybody is happy, which is a narrative that I understand. But again, let's be more objective on this. And as I said, I do not have any dilemma that eventually we will be as green as we could. But I couldn't tell you whether 2035 is really the deadline. That is the real deadline, and it has to be until 2035. I don't have that knowledge. And I don't think that people in the EU Parliament have either.
Yeah, sure. Anne, any thoughts?
Okay, just to say that the development in EU or the strategies or requirements, it happens so quickly. And in Norway as well as in Croatia, we have mainly small and medium-sized enterprises. They do not have the capacity to follow these changes. So Innovation Norway is trying to help the companies to train them, to inform them, and also be very transparent when it comes to criteria or requirements when they apply for financing, a loan or a grant, so they know exactly what to expect. And we also have a close dialogue with them when they are developing the application. So in this way, we try to help them to understand these new requirements for the future.
Maja?
Initially, I had a completely different idea of what my closing remark is going to be, but given everything we have said, my only advice for companies is be proactive. Be proactive, neg the government, call us, be boring, drive me crazy, but come and tell us what do you need, when do you need, and how much does it cost. It's not enough to say, we don't want taxes, let's cancel taxes. Because taxes are not only for this. Taxes are for us to have a normal society in which we can have healthcare, police, So come with the idea, good idea. Come, let's sit at the table and let's come with something good and great for the future.
Andrej, would you like to?
When Ronald Reagan was elected as a president, he said, when you hear somebody knocking on your door and says, "Hi, I'm here from the government. I'm here to help," be afraid. So, joke on side, I think that, as I said, things are not black and white, and obviously we need taxes. Nobody normal is for eliminating taxes, because we know there is purpose behind taxes, but also everybody normal is in favor of reasonable taxes for reasonable level of goods and services provided by the government, and this is really the balance that I'm advocating for.
So I think our time is up, unfortunately. Thank you for insightful and lively conversation. And we will be here, of course, after the panel, open to any questions. So don't be shy. Thank you very much.